The small suburban town of Willow Creek wasn't exactly known for surprises. Life here moved at a steady, predictable pace. Neighbors waved from their porches. Kids played in tidy cul-de-sacs, and weekends were filled with local soccer games and backyard barbecues. For Daniel Carter, however, predictability had never truly existed. A 34-year-old single dad. Daniel's world revolved entirely around his 6-year-old twin daughters. Emily and Grace. Daniel wasn't the type to dwell on what life had taken from him. His wife had passed away when the girls were barely toddlers, and though the loss cut deeper than he could ever put into words, his resilience became his daughter's foundation. He worked long shifts as a mechanic at the town's auto repair shop, coming home exhausted, but still managing bedtime stories and late-night cookie-baking sessions with his twins. He'd mastered the art of tying pigtails and soothing nightmares. Yet he always carried the quiet guilt of not being able to do everything. That was why. When the girls begged him for a babysitter like all the other kids had, Daniel reluctantly agreed. His shifts were getting longer, the overtime hours piling up, and with school starting soon, he needed someone responsible to watch over Emily and Grace in the afternoons. A local agency gave him a list of candidates, but most were either too young or too uninterested. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, there was a knock at his door. Daniel opened it to see a young woman, probably in her early 20s, with long chestnut hair tied back in a loose braid. She wore simple jeans, a t-shirt, and carried herself with an ease that immediately made her seem approachable. Hi, she said with a warm smile. I'm Sophie. I heard you're looking for a babysitter? Daniel nodded, giving her a once-over. That's right. I've got twin girls, 6 years old. They're energetic, to say the least. Her eyes lit up with amusement. Twins? That sounds like fun. You say that now? Daniel chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Come in, meet them. Inside, the twins were sprawled across the living room floor, surrounded by coloring books and scattered crayons. At the sight of Sophie, they jumped up, racing over with the boundless energy only 6-year-olds possessed. Are you going to babysit us? Emily asked eagerly, tugging at Sophie's hand. Maybe? Sophie said playfully. Depends if you two like me. Grace squinted, sizing her up. Do you know how to make mac and cheese? Yes, Sophie replied instantly with mock seriousness. And I even know how to make it extra cheesy. The twins exchanged a glance that seemed to say she passes, and then giggled. Daniel watched the scene unfold with something close to relief. It had been a long time since someone connected with his daughter so quickly. All right, Daniel said, clearing his throat. If you're interested, the job is a few afternoons a week, sometimes evenings. Pays not much, but I'll take it, Sophie interrupted, her tone soft but firm. He frowned. Don't you want to know what it pays? She shrugged lightly. I'm not worried about that. Something about her answer struck him as odd. Most young babysitters he'd interviewed asked about the rate right away. But Sophie seemed different, almost as if money was the least of her concerns. Still, Daniel didn't question it further. He needed the help, and the girls already adored her. Over the next few weeks, Sophie slipped seamlessly into their lives. She picked the girls up from school, helped them with homework, and invented elaborate games that left Emily and Grace squealing with laughter. She wasn't like other babysitters Daniel had hired before. She didn't just watch the girls. She engaged with them, taught them little lessons about kindness, patience, and creativity. What Daniel didn't know, however, was that Sophie carried a secret. She wasn't just a babysitter, and she wasn't the ordinary young woman she appeared to be. Sophie Hamilton was the daughter of Richard Hamilton, the CEO of Hamilton Enterprises, one of the largest and most influential corporations in the country. Her father had built an empire from scratch, and Sophie had grown up surrounded by wealth, privilege, and expectations. She'd been groomed for boardrooms, galas, and power struggles she wanted no part of. After graduating college, Sophie realized she craved something entirely different: authenticity. Real connections, not forged by her last name or her father's money. So, she took a break. Against her father's wishes, she decided to step away from the business world and live like a normal young woman for once. Babysitting the Carter twins was, in her eyes, the perfect way to ground herself to feel needed in a way that had nothing to do with family legacy. One Thursday evening, Daniel came home later than usual. The garage had been packed, and by the time he stumbled through the front door, the exhaustion was etched on his face. But instead of chaos, he found Sophie in the kitchen, with Emily and Grace perched on stools beside her. They were rolling cookie dough into tiny balls, flour dusting their little noses. You're late, Daddy," Grace announced dramatically. Yeah. "We were about to eat all the cookies without you," Emily added with a giggle. Daniel laughed, shaking his head. "Looks like you three had fun." Sophie glanced up, smiling softly. "We saved you some dough to roll, that night." After the twins were tucked in, Daniel lingered in the kitchen, rinsing mugs while Sophie gathered the baking mess. "You're really good with them," he said after a moment. "Thanks," she replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "They're amazing kids. Still. I feel like I should apologize. You've done more than I expected. I thought hiring a babysitter would just mean keeping them safe, maybe helping with homework. But you." He trailed off, searching for the right words. Sophie looked at him curiously. "But I what?" "You make their lives brighter," Daniel admitted quietly. "I haven't seen them this happy in a long time." The honesty in his tone made Sophie's chest tighten. She hadn't expected to care this much either, but Daniel's words stirred something deep inside her. For once, she wasn't just the CEO's daughter. She was someone who mattered in an ordinary family's world. Weeks turned into months, and Sophie became an irreplaceable part of the Carter household. The twins adored her, and Daniel grew increasingly grateful, though he never crossed any professional lines. Yet there were moments, fleeting, unspoken, where he caught himself watching her a second too long. The way she laughed with the girls, the gentleness in her eyes, the warmth she brought into his once quiet home. One chilly November evening. As Daniel pulled into the driveway, he spotted an unfamiliar car parked across the street. Sleek, black, and far too expensive for their neighborhood. He thought nothing of it until Sophie's expression faltered when she noticed it too. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "No," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just thought I recognized it." But inside, Sophie's stomach twisted. She knew that car. It belonged to one of her father's business associates. If he'd tracked her down here, the life she'd built with the Carters might crumble in an instant. Daniel, oblivious to the storm beneath her calm demeanor, simply carried on with the evening. But Sophie lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling of her small rented apartment. She'd wanted an escape, a chance to be normal. But secrets had a way of surfacing. She feared the truth about who she really was would soon come crashing into the fragile happiness she'd found. And when it did, Daniel Carter, the hardworking, kind-hearted single father, would be the last person prepared for it. The first snow of the season blanketed Willow Creek the next morning. The twins pressed their noses against the frosted window pane, squealing at the sight of the white powder. Snow angels. Emily shouted, snowball fights, Grace added, already tugging on her mittens. Daniel chuckled, pouring himself a much-needed cup of coffee. Sophie arrived minutes later, her cheeks pink from the chill, a knit scarf wrapped around her neck. She joined the girls outside, laughing as they dove into the snow. From the porch, Daniel watched them as daughters chasing Sophie around the yard, their shrieks echoing like music against the quiet street. For a moment. Everything felt perfect. But perfection. Daniel knew rarely lasted, that afternoon. As Sophie helped the girls build a lopsided snowman, the sleek black car returned. This time, it didn't just sit idly on the street. It pulled into the driveway. Daniel stepped outside, his guard instantly up. The driver's door opened, revealing a sharply dressed man in his 50s, his salt-and-pepper hair neatly combed, his tailored coat exuding wealth. Asterisk Sophie froze. Asterisk Dad, she whispered under her breath. Asterisk Daniel's brows furrowed. Dad. Asterisk the man's eyes locked onto Sophie with stern intensity. Sophia Hamilton, what on earth are you doing here? Asterisk Daniel blinked, confusion clouding his face. Hamilton, as in Hamilton Enterprises. Asterisk, Sophie's heart sank. The secret she had so carefully guarded was unraveling before her very eyes. She swallowed hard, glancing at the twins who were watching the scene unfold with wide, curious eyes. Asterisk girls, she said gently, forcing a smile. Why don't you go inside for a bit? I'll be right there. Asterisk reluctantly. Emily and Grace trudged inside, leaving the three adults standing in the snowy yard. Asterisk Richard Hamilton's voice was sharp as he continued. I send you to the best schools, the finest programs, and this is where you end up? Playing house as a babysitter? Asterisk Sophie flinched at the condescension in his tone. I told you, Dad. I needed a break. I wanted something real, something normal. Asterisk normal. He scoffed. Do you have any idea what people will say if they find out the daughter of Richard Hamilton has reduced herself to this? He gestured toward the modest Carter home with disdain. Asterisk Daniel's jaw tightened. With all due respect, sir, there's nothing reduced about what she's been doing here. My girls adore her. She's been more than just a babysitter, she's family. Asterisk Richard turned his steely gaze on Daniel. And you are? Asterisk Daniel Carter, he replied evenly. Single father. Mechanic. The man who hired your daughter without having the faintest idea she came from money, because, frankly, it didn't matter. She's good with my kids. That's all I cared about. Asterisk Sophie's chest swelled with gratitude at his defense. But her father wasn't impressed. Asterisk, you've been hiding here, pretending to live a life you were never meant to lead. Richard snapped at Sophie. This little charade ends now. You're coming home with me? Asterisk, I'm not a child anymore, Sophie retorted, her voice trembling but firm. You don't get to decide my life for me. Asterisk, the tension between them was palpable. The snowy air thick with unspoken resentment. Daniel stepped back, sensing this was a battle that had been years in the making. Still, he couldn't shake the anger rising within him, anger at the way Sophie's father dismissed her choices. Her happiness? Asterisk, after a few more barbed words, Richard finally retreated, warning her this nonsense wouldn't be tolerated much longer. The black car pulled away, leaving tire tracks in the snow and silence in its wake. Asterisk Daniel turned to Sophie, who stood rooted in place, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her eyes glistened, though she fought to hold the tears back. Asterisk, so, he said quietly. CEO's daughter, huh? Asterisk Sophie winced. I wanted to tell you, I didn't want to be treated differently. Not by you, not by Emily and Grace. For once in my life, I just wanted to be Sophie. Not Hamilton. Not the CEO's daughter. Just me. Asterisk Daniel studied her for a long moment. Then he said simply, well, you've been Sophie to us. That's all that matters. Asterisk, her breath hitched, relief flooding her chest. But deep down, she knew it wasn't that simple. Asterisk, in the days that followed, Richard Hamilton didn't give up. He sent calls, messages, even an assistant to try and persuade Sophie to come home. She ignored them all. But the weight of her secret now hung heavily over the Carter household. Asterisk, Emily, and Grace, blissfully unaware of the complexities, continued to adore her just the same. But Daniel, he wrestled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, he admired Sophie's courage and humility. On the other, he couldn't help but wonder what her world, her real world, meant for someone like him. Asterisk one evening, after tucking the twins into bed, Daniel found Sophie sitting on the porch steps, her breath visible in the cold night air. Asterisk, you okay? He asked, settling beside her. Asterisk, she nodded faintly. Just thinking, asterisk about your dad. Asterisk about everything, she admitted. I've spent my whole life being told who I should be, what path I should take. And now, for the first time, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. But I know it can't last forever. Asterisk Daniel frowned. Why not? Asterisk, because my father won't stop until I go back. And even if I resist him, there's this huge gap between our worlds. You're real, grounded. And I'm, asterisk, not any less real. Daniel interrupted firmly. Money, last names, all that doesn't matter here. What matters is how you treat people. And Sophie, you've treated my daughters better than anyone ever has. You've given them joy, stability, love. That's real, asterisk. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. For a moment, she wanted to lean into him, to bridge the unspoken tension that had grown between them. But she held back, afraid of complicating things further. Asterisk, the breaking point came 2 weeks later. Asterisk Richard Hamilton showed up again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Reporters had caught wind of his daughter's mysterious disappearance. Cameras flashed as soon as they spotted Sophie outside the Carter home. Asterisk, Miss Hamilton. Why are you living here? Asterisk, is it true you're dating a mechanic? Asterisk, are you rebelling against your father's company? Asterisk chaos erupted. Emily and Grace peeked nervously from the window, frightened by the swarm of strangers. Daniel rushed them upstairs while Sophie tried to shield her face. Overwhelmed by the sudden invasion of her carefully protected sanctuary, asterisk that night, after the reporters dispersed, Daniel confronted her, asterisk. I can't have my girls dragged into this circus, he said, his voice low but steady. They've been through enough. I can't let them get hurt again. Asterisk Sophie's heart broke. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted them or you to be caught in the middle. Asterisk C sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know, but this is your life, Sophie, and it's colliding with mine in ways I'm not sure I can handle. Asterisk tears spilled down her cheeks. So what are you saying? Asterisk, I'm saying maybe. Maybe it's best if you step back, at least until things calm down. Asterisk, the words shattered her. She nodded, unable to speak, and left that night with a heaviness she hadn't felt since childhood. Asterisk, for weeks. The Carter home felt emptier than ever. Emily and Grace asked about Sophie constantly, their little hearts struggling to understand why she disappeared so suddenly. Daniel tried to fill the void, but he couldn't deny the ache in his own chest. He missed her laughter, her warmth, the way she made their small world brighter. Asterisk, meanwhile, Sophie faced relentless pressure from her father. He urged her to attend meetings, to prepare for her inevitable role in the company. But her heart wasn't in it. Her mind lingered on the Carter twins, on Daniel's quiet strength, on the home that had felt more like family than her own ever had. Asterisk one evening. After another heated argument with her father, Sophie made a decision. She wasn't going to let fear dictate her life. She wasn't going to sacrifice her happiness for appearances. Asterisk, the next day, she returned to Willow Creek. Asterisk. When Daniel opened the door and saw her standing, there nervous, but determined his breath caught. Asterisk. I know I complicated things, she said quickly. I know my world isn't simple, and being with me might bring challenges you don't want. But I can't stay away. Not from Emily, not from Grace. Not from you. Asterisk Daniel stared at her, torn between caution and the undeniable pull in his heart. Asterisk, you're sure about this? He asked softly. Asterisk, she nodded. For the first time in my life, I'm absolutely sure. Asterisk, and in that moment, Daniel realized something he'd been trying to ignore all along. Sophie wasn't just a babysitter, or the CEO's daughter in disguise. She was the missing piece of their family. Asterisk, he reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. Then I guess we figure it out together. Asterisk behind them. Emily and Grace squealed with delight, rushing to hug Sophie tightly. The warmth of their embrace wrapped around her like a promise that no matter the challenges ahead, love had already built a home in the unlikeliest of places.